Let's talk about sugar and carbohydrate addiction. What do you need to know? And then some thoughts from my personal experience. My name is Brian, and I used to be 320 pounds, and now here I am. I'm in my 230s, but building more muscle and losing more fat every day. And this video, by the way, is dedicated to a very inspirational young man, young dad on the internet named Carnivore Kip. And I've messaged him a little bit on Instagram, but he doesn't know I'm doing this video. This is not just for him. It's information that goes to anybody. I'm a little bit further ahead on the journey, and but however, I am also the father of a young, beautiful girl, and so I very much connect with your story. I must admit, I just bought Kip a store-bought cast iron. Don't judge me. I know it's not like top of the line, but I'm getting into it. We'll talk more. But anyway, for everybody out there, here's the deal. Sugar and carbohydrates is absolutely an addiction. It's not only a biological addiction, it is a psychological addiction. Okay. If you don't believe it's a biological addiction, I'm going to post some links below. But ask yourself, why does the Cleveland Clinic, arguably the most preeminent research hospital in the world, have a YouTube series on sugar addiction? Why in 2008 is there an article in Scientific American about how rats prefer sugar to cocaine? And beyond that, let me ask you something. Have you ever gone 7 days without it? Have you ever seen what happens? And when I mean sugar, I don't mean passing the donuts. No, all forms of sugar. Everything. Including that lunch meat that has corn syrup in it. Everything. Have you ever truly detoxed off it? Because that's what people in the ketogenic and carnivore community are doing. And you might say, well, I'll die. You got to educate yourself a little bit. Yes, your body needs blood sugar, but it can make it itself. Okay? There's no such thing as a essential carbohydrate. And if you want to argue that, don't argue with me. I'm a mere mortal. All I've done is lose a bunch of weight. Argue with the doctors and scientists. Google gluconeogenesis and study that. Okay? But here is the truth. Not only is it addiction, it jacks with your hormones. It confuses your hormones like ghrelin and leptin, the hormones that tell you when you're hungry and when you're full. It blocks the release of your fat stores through a surge of what's called insulin. And so there you are, jacked, unable to be nourished from your own fat stores, and getting hungrier even though you're eating more. And then at the end of the day, society and your own doctor is going to blame you for getting fatter, when this substance is laced in every freaking thing in the world. Like I mentioned earlier, your lunch meat probably has sugar in it. Pure smoked turkey breast probably has sugar in it. The vitamin C tablets you're taking probably has some sort of starch or sugar in it. This is a game you're set up to fail. And that is why Dr. Fung, in his seminal work that I constantly reference, The Obesity Code, talks about this dynamic as a cruel hoax. How people are set up to fail. Then when they inevitably fail, society and their own medical communities, doctors, nurses around them, tell them they're the problem. That's cruel. That's the biological side of it. And you can do your own deep dive and wormholes and listen to the PhDs and the MDs on that. But like I said, if you don't believe it, go 7 days without it. No pasta, no sugar, no sweetener, nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. The second part of sugar and carbohydrate addiction is not medical and biological. It's psychological. And this is something we all know very well, and I can talk from very strong personal experience. All of us celebrate when it comes to food. All of us grieve around food. All of us socialize around food. And nothing hits your dopamine receptors better than a nice little dose of sugar. We have had it in every meal for most of our lives. And after work, what do you look forward to? After school, what do you look forward to? Back as a kid in the 80s, the war on fat was in full rage. I'd come home from school and I would just grab a whole box of Raisin Bran and pour a big bowl, have some nice low-fat milk on it. And then, of course, I'd douse some sugar on the top, but that's not so bad because it's Raisin Bran. You see, my mom wouldn't let us have Frosted Flakes in the house, but Raisin Bran, that was okay. It was last year, by the way, that I finally realized, standing in a grocery aisle, Raisin Bran has more sugar in it than Frosted Flakes. Next time you're in the grocery store, that might be an interesting thing to check out for yourself. But absolutely everything was sugar related. It gave me a sense of relief and gave me a sense of joy. Sugar is always a treat. It's the dessert, let alone all the sugar you've eaten in the meal on your way to dessert. But the other thing, too, is all the memories that are associated with it. You know, as I become a parent myself and, you know, I revisit some places from my childhood. I just went to a childhood restaurant, one of the few still around, and I looked at the menu and, you know, I ended up ordering a hamburger with 4 meat patties, and then I just ate the meat patties. But man, I looked at that menu, and it wasn't just food on the menu. It was love on the menu. It was memories on the menu. I can't tell you how many times in the past few months as I'm trying to get locked into carnivore, I slipped, not because I was hungry, but simply because I wanted a memory, and I was around a memory. There's a donut chain that finally expanded, and there was one near me, and I was like, "Hey, let's go just taste what it was like 30 years ago." Oh my God, immediate headache. Just the oil, it just coated my mouth. It was terrible. It was terrible. But the psychological aspect of carbohydrate addiction is very real. And so what do we do about it? Okay, what do we do about it? Well, the first thing we got to do is make sure that we're setting ourselves up to win. Okay. There's a saying, you know, that I like, which is that willpower is for losers. Winners set up their environment so that the winning choice is the only choice. Okay. So that's number one. You got to get things that tempt you out of your environment. And that's very hard if you're the only one on a strict diet in your household. The second thing is you have to sleep. You just have to sleep. There is a straight line between lack of sleep and need and desire to overeat and eat the wrong things. Okay. And then you have to avoid stress. And I know that's easier said than done. And about sleep and stress, this is for everybody, but circling back to Carnivore Kip with a young child, I know you're not sleeping and you're stressed all the time about something, because that's my life. And so how do you deal with stress? Well, I've found doing high intensity weightlifting has helped me a lot. And I'll have my own video on that. Getting back to little pockets of time around things you love that aren't productive, they're just for you. It can be stopping into a store that is a hobby store, or, you know, a tool store, or, you know, go browse a car lot, look at cars that you like. Like, you got to just decompress. You got to decompress. And if you are in a situation where maybe your job or something is changeable that you need to change, because it's stressing you out, think long-term about your health, man. Seriously, if you got a boss that's been there 20 years and they ain't going nowhere and they are keeping you up at night, hey, you know, maybe some short-term pain is worth moving. Okay. So that's the stress part. The other thing is you got to connect with the community. You just have to. if you're not seeing your friends, if you're not connecting with people, that'll increase your stress as well. And then it goes in a cycle. You don't sleep, you get stressed, you have less resistance to the bad food to make you feel good, and now you're all jacked up, so you're more stressed, and you don't sleep, and you just spiral down the wrong path. That's how I ended up at 320 pounds, as you can see in the thumbnail of this video. And so you got to set yourself up to win, but then in the moment of temptation, when you really are trying to kick the habit, there's a couple of things that are really going to help you. The first thing is realize your craving isn't real. Okay? It's not real. You're in a haunted house. You're being punked. There's a secret camera that somebody's pranking you. This is not a real signal for hunger. Okay? Go eat a hamburger patty and come back. See if you're really hungry. You're not hungry. You're probably having an emotional trigger. And again, Dr. Rob Cywes, who I've linked below in the description, his YouTube channel is amazing on really talking about the addiction side. Okay? Realize you're being punked. Okay? Because if you realize you're being punked and what you're feeling isn't real, you can get through it better. Okay? Like if you're in a haunted house and you know you're in a haunted house because you just bought a ticket to get into the haunted house and you know this isn't real, yeah, you still get shocked when the guy pops around the corner or, something gory happens. But deep down, you know what, this isn't real. I just got to keep walking. And you do have to keep walking. Okay. So that's really important, is to just realize you're being punked. And the second thing is have a substitution. Okay. If you're no longer leaning into carbohydrates to feel good, you got to lean into something else to feel good when you feel you need to feel good. And you got to replace them with healthy habits. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's totally possible. I can't tell you how great I feel after I just I discovered sauna. There's a YMCA not far from us. It's had a sauna for 40 years. I've never tried it. Now I've gotten into it and I'm like, oh wow, cool. I feel better. Go outside, direct sunlight. Oh, I feel better. Google a movie about, or a YouTube video about one of your favorite hobbies. Get your mind into something pleasurable. Okay? Even if it's just for a few minutes. All right? You got to substitute what's on your mind for something more productive that's on your mind. And then, in the end, if you want something that's going to help you relax, not be stressed, not look to chemicals to make you feel a certain way or to give you energy, the last horizon is giving up coffee. And that was something I really struggled with. I'm going to have my own video on that, as well as tips on how to let it go. But as I say in that video, I was the Charlie Sheen of coffee. I was pounding it and pounding it. I used it to suppress my hunger. I used it to make me feel good. I used it to relax. I used it to pick me up. I used it to substitute sleep. You name it. I am so much calmer after I gave up coffee. Okay. And then give yourself grace. And what helps me give myself grace is realizing the natural product of process of detox of anything is what you're going to be going through. And as your body heals, it'll heal in stages. Again, going back to Dr. Fung's book about body set weights. You got to know these things. Just like when you're on an airplane and you're taking off and there's this bang and there's this shudder and you're freaking out. Well, look at the flight attendants. Are they freaking out? No. Why? Because they've done this 1,000 times. And they know a little physics. They're not physicists, but they know a little physics. The plane is not in the air by magic. It's being supported by air pressure. Thousands of tons of air pressure. You got to know a little science so that you feel good, that what you're doing is actually normal. Headaches when you're withdrawing. Okay? Means your electrolytes are down. It doesn't mean this is bad for you. Your weight loss stalled. Okay? Why? You got to learn about body set weights. You got to learn about a few things. Otherwise, you're going to freak yourself out. And if you don't want to sit down and read a book on it, well, just lean on the flight attendants. I'm a flight attendant. Okay? I'm not a doctor or scientist, MD, inventor of this, but I can help you on your flight. I've been on this flight. So lean on my experience. This is normal. I'll have other videos coming up on what happens if you stall, with the role of exercise, because I never thought there was one. And most exercise doesn't belong in a serious weight loss journey. It's a mental health game. That might sound controversial, but hold that thought. But there are things you can do to move the needle. But this video is about addiction. And so I hope it gave you some food for thought. Check out the links below. It will blow your mind what you're not being told about the addictive nature of sugar and carbohydrates. And I really hope you find success and enjoy the journey. Enjoy every little win. On the scale, off the scale, in the gym, in the clothing store. When you get up from a car, get up from a seat, and oh, wow, that wasn't so bad. When you pick up a bag of groceries, you're like, oh, wow, that wasn't so bad. There's going to be a million little victories ahead of you. And when it's all said and done, who's going to be revealed is who God really designed you to be. And this is a whole other aspect I'll get into at some point. We're supposed to be in the world and not of it. Well, go in a grocery store. God invented all the food around the perimeter. The world invented the BS in the boxes. And it's the BS in the boxes that have distorted us. You know, I'll say this analogy again, but just as a sneak peek. The great artist Michelangelo, there's a story attributed to him, and I'll leave you with this. Michelangelo, the great sculptor, sculpted some of the greatest works of art. Easy to Google, and it'll just blow your mind, all the famous works of art that he sculpted. And one day an apprentice was watching him sculpt a raw block of marble, and he was sculpting it into a lion. And when Michelangelo took a break, his apprentice came up to him and he said, "How did you know to sculpt a lion out of this particular block of marble?" And Michelangelo said, "I didn't create the lion. I saw the lion trapped in the marble. And so my job was to just remove everything that wasn't the lion." God knows the real you. He made it. The world has made this depressed, sad thing. That's not the lion. Remove the addictions. You can't get addicted to food. You're naturally full and you stop. Be in the world, not of it. All right, guys. Carry on, Kip. I'll see you soon.